Anyway, what's our next topic? We got movie theater chains and
we were gonna talk about apocalyptic movies.
Oh yeah, our top 5 or top whatever. Pick a number. I don't give a shit.
Does anybody have 5? I have 3.
I could probably hang up with 5.
I can come up with 2 more.
I don't know what I just said. I just mumbled a bunch of stuff.
Well, since there are 4 of us, let's just do 3 each.
Okay.
3 each.
Matt's ready to go.
Matt's ready to go. So we're gonna start with you, buddy. What's your
out the gate? You got your phone in your hand.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with this.
Are you texting?
Are you getting ready for a soundbite or something? Back in Hollywood.
I don't want to be the first to go.
He's talking to Booger from Revenge of the Nerds for next week's sounder.
He's in Better Off Dead.
Pure snow.
It's just pure snow.
It's everywhere.
The street value.
You know what the street value of this mountain is? I
love that movie.
God damn it. Thank you.
You guys want to stay and just watch that movie?
Yes. Not today, but yes. All right. Well, since I'm the leader of this so-called podcast, I will go first.
Yes, fearless leader.
Top of the level for me, as far as an experience, I saw in theaters when it came out, and it at the time it struck me. I was moved by this movie. It was I Am Legend. With Will Smith. And I can't really claim that it's like the best movie ever because I don't think it is. But at the time when I watched it in the theater, it was quite the experience. And I think they did a fantastic job with that movie. And one of my favorite moments that I will never forget is when he's in this city and he's completely all by himself. And Sam, the dog, chases something into a dark building. And that whole sequence, as far as the way it was shot and as far as like Will Smith's acting, being the only person on screen for the entire movie, he's going in this building and you just see like a video camera of his face with his gun barrel pointed down, and he's freaking out because he's in this dark room and he knows.
And he has to go after her because Sam's all he has.
Yes, he has to save Sam, and that's his. He's terrified to do it, but he has to do it, and that whole sequence just blew my mind. I loved it. I was like, this is amazing. This is such a great cinematic experience as far as that. And then when he turns that corner and he sees them all huddled together and they're breathing real heavily, and he just like freaks out for a second. Like I was freaking terrified. That was an amazing shot. And I love that movie for it. And I know the ending didn't quite live up to everybody's expectations. As I think a lot of people felt it was kind of disappointing. And I can agree to a point, but that movie, up until that third act, I think was just fantastic.
Well, the whole movie was just so intense the whole way through, I feel like, that no matter how they ended it, it probably would have been a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, well, maybe.
And how that movie differs from current events is that in the movie, dogs were affected by the virus, and in current events, our dogs are safe.
I thought it was transmitted by animals. Anyway.
I have a big irrational hatred of that movie.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Well,
hold on. I'm not done yet.
Little Papa's moment.
What was I going to say?
It's your time to shine.
Shit, I forgot what I was going to say.
Ending? Dogs?
Oh, no, the setup for the reason why these zombies/vampires were around. That whole, like, hey, we came up with this thing that cures cancer. And, there's, as far as we can tell, there's no side effects. And then all of a sudden shit went south real quick. And I was like, wow, that's such a cool thing, because scientists and humans are always trying to play God with like genetics, which is part of the reason why I like Jurassic Park so much, is because this God mentality of like, oh, we're going to manipulate this and we're going to make it benefit us somehow. And then I
thought you just liked dinosaurs.
I do love dinosaurs, but I love dinosaurs. And I also like the message behind Jurassic Park and Michael Crichton's novels.
Let's have you say that after you meet a dinosaur.
Can I make dinosaurs? They're getting closer.
Man,
there's an ankylosaurus. They found an ankylosaurus that still had flesh on it. It was buried in some permafrost, and it was still like fleshy. And I'm like, oh my god, clone it! It's just an ankylosaurus. What's the worst that could happen?
Famous last words.
Anyway, that's one of the biggest things that I appreciated about that movie was the setup for it and the atmosphere of him going around town and seeing all these dilapidated buildings and kind of like searching for supplies in people's apartments and seeing dead bodies kind of left behind. It was very somber and realistic, and I just love that movie.
Have we all seen that movie? I have.
Yeah.
So my favorite part of that movie, because I love that movie too.
Oh, good.
I know. And I only have 3 movies, but if I had to make 5, that would have been one of my 5. But my favorite part of that movie is the scene where he walks up to the mannequin and he's just desperate for something real. And he's like, the emotion in his face, and he's like, are you real? Are you real? Like, that really, it touched me in a way that was just like the loneliness of it, I felt.
I don't know. I'm an introvert, so I'd be like, whatever. I did like that moment. There's something that they did with the camera or for CGI or whatever, but when he's driving by and he sees Frank, the mannequin, in the street, and he's like, what are you doing out here, Frank?
Yeah.
The first time you see Frank in the street, he does actually turn his head. His head moves towards the car. If you watch the movie real closely. And that's what freaks Will Smith. It's his mind playing tricks on him. But in the movie itself, they actually did that. And I was like, oh, that's so
that makes me want to rewatch it.
It's really good. It's a cool moment. It still gives me chills just thinking about it.
Vader, you've been researching all morning. You want to go?
What you got there, buddy?
I'm just twittering.
Oh, good.
Well, I wanted to comment on that movie real quick.
I know it. Go ahead.
So first of all, I was a fan of the book way before the movie got made, and the Will Smith version was nothing like the book.
Yeah.
Second of all, when I was in college, that movie was originally going to be made starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and being directed by Ridley Scott. And I got to read one of the drafts of the script.
That would have been a totally different movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to read the draft of the script that Ridley Scott had been developing, and it was fantastic. It was an absolutely phenomenal script. I loved it. I couldn't wait to see Arnold Schwarzenegger in that role.
What are you doing here, Frank?
it was totally different. It was totally different, and it was a lot closer to the book. And I felt like the ending to the book was so powerful that it would have made like one of the most iconic movie moments ever. And the movie that Will Smith ended up making just
botched it.
Didn't do anything.
Because in the book, he's the monster, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's revealed that he is the one who is the monster, and the people that he perceives as monsters or vampires are actually normal people.
No, the vampires have become the dominant species, and because he's the one going around killing them, like he's the boogeyman now, and that's why he's legend. Is because cool. he is the thing that the vampires tell their kids to be afraid of. Yeah, and it was the story about like him kind of coming to grips with the fact that he's like the last of his kind, and he has to let go in order to make room for like this new species. And it was very poignant, and it was really a powerful ending. Like when he comes to this realization, and because in the book, he has this like compound that he's like home alone, where he's like booby trapped everything, and the vampires come to try to like kill him because they see him as a threat. And so every night he's up and he's like fighting these vampires, and he's been alone for God knows how long, and then he meets like a woman. Who looks like a human, and he takes her in and cares for her, and he's just like so grateful to have like more human contact, and he kind of like comes to care for her and stuff like that. And then it's revealed like later on in the book that she's actually a vampire, but the vampires are evolving to be more kind of like a human vampire hybrid type thing, and he couldn't believe that like he actually like could care for like a vampire and stuff like that. So it was like a very interesting kind of take on being accepting of differences, and how like when you vilify like a whole nother race, like you become the monster and stuff. So there was a lot of very subtle stuff that was in the book that I would have liked to have seen translated into the movie, which probably wouldn't have happened with the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. but still, like like I would have liked to have seen, because I think Louis Leterrier directed the Will Smith version, and he did Taken, I think, and a couple other kind of French action movies. And I would have liked to have seen like a little bit more sophistication in the themes of the movie and stuff like that. But
I can agree with you.
I don't think it's a bad movie. I just have an irrational hatred of it because I know what it could have been. The
source material, it doesn't pay homage to the source material enough. I mean, there's a little bit of that in it, but it's kind of a swing and a miss as far as of hitting the nail on the head. So I can understand why people kind of get turned off by it. But when I had no idea it was already a book when I saw it in theaters, and I was just blown away by it. I was like, this is freaking awesome. I love that movie. Next on my list would be Deep Impact. Although I think Armageddon is
the porn?
No. No, the one with Elijah Wood. Not that porn either. No, I like...
hello, Mr. Wood.
I enjoy...
The porn to end all porns.
As far as entertainment value goes, I do enjoy Armageddon better, with the Bruce Willis movie with Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis, what's the... Liv Tyler.
Steve Buscemi.
I think that movie, Steve Buscemi,
I wanted to feel the power between my legs.
Yeah, he's a hugely underrated actor because he's amazing in every single thing he's ever done.
Hello, fellow kids.
He's Steve Buscemi in everything he does.
Yeah.
He's the same dude.
But anyway, that movie is obviously, we can all agree. And on an entertainment level, Armageddon is better.
I saw Armageddon at the drive-in when it first came out.
That's awesome.
I know.
I love drive-ins.
That's how old I am.
No, that doesn't mean you're old.
Armageddon is the quintessential Baygasm.
Yeah.
It's his best movie.
No, I think 6 Feet Under would be that one. The Baygasm.
No, 6 Underground.
6 Underground, whatever it is. Anyway,
I just died.
I think Deep Impact did a better job at displaying kind of like the everyman, the average person. What kind of effect would this have on like just the average family, and watching their panic and watching them react to the situation and having to pick who's going to live and who's going to die amongst the family members. I think that movie did a really good job at kind of displaying the apocalypse.
That scene where that kid wins the lottery and then they learn that his family can't come with him and they have to just decide, okay, well, you're going to live and we're going to die. Yeah. And it's okay. And don't cry. We're going to go over here and die and you'll live. That's heart-wrenching.
Oh, I just remember something about I Am Legend. I'm going to rewind a little bit. The moment where they're trying to get through the gates and they're scanning people's eyelids and temperature gauges. I saw what they were doing in China before you could get on flights and stuff, and I was like, holy shit, it's I Am Legend. They were scanning people. They're taking people's temperatures. Yeah. And somebody
said that happened to them going into a grocery store the other day here.
Yeah. They're scanning people for temperature, and if your temperature's too high, you get booted out.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, that's I Am Legend. Like, I saw that happen in a movie. Oh my God.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Hollywood did it first.
Yeah. It's amazing. Anyway, okay. Fast forward to Deep Impact. I really enjoyed that movie as far as the everyday man goes. It was really cool. I loved it. I liked the way that it kind of portrayed that family dynamic. And
I felt like
that would be number 2 on my list.
The most disturbing part of that movie was, so the astronauts who are up there trying to like redirect the asteroid, and one of them gets like shot off into space, and he's just like, flying away, and it cuts to the inside of his helmet. He's just like screaming, and it's like that dude is just like
gone.
Like he's not dead. He's just going to die really slowly and painfully. Like
he's gonna suffocate in
eventually
an hour or so, however much longer.
Either they're gonna suffocate or freeze to death.
Yeah, but I was like, that's probably the worst way to go.
I don't know. How would you, if you were just floating in space in a spacesuit, what would you do? Would you wait until your oxygen ran out, or would you just take your helmet off?
I'd probably just end it.
Just take your helmet off and float away. Be like, all right, peace. It'd be a nice view. I liked Space Cowboys, where what's his name? What's the guy's? Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones. He landed on the moon. He was like, I'm going to go out like a boss. And he just rockets his ass to the moon. I thought that was a good way for an astronaut to die. Anyway, that was my 2. I'm going to think about it because I know I had a couple. Oh, Mad Max, obviously. Post-apocalyptic Mad Max movies are awesome. Fury Road's up there.
There goes my answer.
I knew
Vader was going to say that.
I was going to say Vader was going to say that.
I know.
No, actually, that would be like my number 2. I was going to do... I was just going to lump all the Mad Max movies into one thing.
That's fair.
Okay.
From, But,
so what is it about you that you like those movies?
They're just fun.
They're just fun to watch.
You
the
like
carnage.
Mohawks?
They're just crazy fun. Mohawk. Give me your gasoline and I'll let you live.
Two men into one man.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I love those movies. I can watch them over and over all the time.
I always thought it was really weird that like there's an oil shortage, but people have like flamethrovers and shit like that, and cars that get like 8 miles to the gallon. It's not realistic at all.
They're very culty movies, and it's like I don't even know if you guys know, but there's a thing here in Vegas where it's called a Wasteland Weekend, where all these people dress up and role play, and they go out in the desert between here and Barstow somewhere, and they camp out for like 5 days.
Yep.
And it's like they have the Thunderdome. It's like hundreds of people. It's legit.
Like I've seen videos, and I'm like, holy cow, these guys go all the way.
It's
They've got the old time cars with like spikes hanging out the back of them and like flamethrovers. They go all the way.
They just make the movie out in the desert, and and do it.
If they ever wanted to make a sequel to Fury Road, just wait till that weekend. You got all the extras you need already in costume. But it's amazing.
But I like the Fury Road was probably, I think, my favorite movie of pretty much the last decade. Oh, wow. You know, it's really high up there for me, and they're just a lot of fun, and they don't take it super seriously, but the stunts and everything, it's just made for a theater. It's just made for crazy post-apocalyptic nonsense. You know, it's great stuff.
All very simple stories.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Max only speaks like 12 lines in the entire movie.
But I think if I want to go down like a weird hole for like post-apocalyptic movies,
go for it. I love weird holes.
Well, yeah.
Deep impact.
I've always been partial to. You guys are gonna laugh at me, but The Postman.
Oh, I love Postman.
It's a good movie.
Postman's a really good movie.
It is. And, it's underrated. It's definitely.
I kind of. It was set. It supposedly was set up in the Northwest where I come from, and I always kind of think about what if something weird happens to where, what would happen, you know? And it's like I can totally see how the community is kind of like enclosed in these little town fortresses and things up in the woods and everything, and I can completely see and that happen for real up there or something like that.
That was the movie that basically destroyed Kevin Costner's career.
Waterworld, right? Waterworld was the most expensive.
Well, Waterworld didn't ruin his career.
Which one came out first?
Waterworld.
Okay. But before Postman?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Kevin Costner didn't produce or direct Waterworld. He just starred in it. But he was the guy behind The Postman. So he was the one who produced it, directed it, and got it made, and because it was such a huge failure, it basically ends his career.
I mean, I know it got a lot of crap when it came out, but
it's also based on a book.
Yeah.
I saw that. I think I may have watched it on TV. It was on like TNT or something. It was
Postman
the first
or Waterworld?
Postman. Waterworld I saw, and I watched the movie, and I just didn't care for it. I know they have like a thing. It's like based on Waterworld. It's like a stunt show.
I think they used to. I don't know if they.
I don't think
still
they have
do.
that
They don't have it anymore. I remember seeing that when I went to Universal.
Yeah.
I saw that show.
I thought Postman was good.
I did too.
Like there are some moments in it where it's just kind of like okay, but overall, I thought like it was a very interesting movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What else you got?
Oh, that's pretty much it.
Just the two?
Yeah, just the two.
Our top two post-apocalyptic movies.
that was really like 6 movies.
Well, technically, he did something like 5 movies.
Yeah, he did 5.
The Mad Max.
There's always all the zombie movies and stuff.
Oh yeah, what is your favorite zombie movie?
My favorite zombie movie?
I think all of mine are zombie movies.
Boy. Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead, that's a fantastic choice.
Great one.
Good choice.
I love that. All right, Jude, what do you got?
I got 3.
Cool.
So my number 3 is This Is the End.
Okay, I haven't seen that yet.
Really?
Everybody tells me how amazing it is.
It's hilarious.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I must have saw that movie in the theater like 5 times. It's hilarious.
I saw it in the theater once, but since then I think I watched it like 2 or 3 times. But it's just
Jonah Hill.
Still hilarious.
They keep mentioning his Oscar. I mean, it is like if you're a fan of any of those guys, like it's so worth watching because Danny McBride plays himself.
Yeah.
I know.
Michael?
I remember. Yeah. Okay. I was trying to remember what this was.
What's his name?
Michael Cena.
Michael.
Oh no,
Is that his name? That's not his name.
The guy from Arrested Development, right?
Yes.
Like there's a scene where he's getting a BJ and having his butt licked at the same time.
Whoa.
Such a dick.
Yeah. He really plays himself as a true degenerate.
He's a degenerate.
And he's not playing a character. He's like, no, this is me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
And there's this whole scene where like they're talking about raping Emma Watson.
Yeah.
No, Hermione Granger. What's her name?
Yeah, Emma Watson. Yeah. And but they're talking about like not raping her.
Yeah.
They're like I'm not going to rape her.
Yeah.
Why? Do you want to rape her? And they're I'm not going to rape her. And she's listening. She's like, these guys are going to rape me.
Yeah, like but they're trying to be like, how can we make her feel like we're not going to rape her because we're like a bunch of dudes. She's the only girl. We don't want her to think she's going to get raped.
She's going to get raped. And she's like, they're totally going to rape me. It's so funny.
It sounds bananas.
Oh, it's fantastic. And it's got like a lot of like meta humor too.
Yeah.
So like there's stuff that they talk about at the beginning of the movie that pays off later in the movie, and it's just it's phenomenal.
So that This Is the End is 2013. My number 2 is 2004's Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
I love that movie. I saw it in the theaters when it first came out. I remember seeing previews for it and then having nightmares about the previews, and I was like, I have to see this movie.
Are you talking the original or the remake?
The 2004.
Okay.
Zack Snyder's.
Great
Yeah,
movie.
the soundtrack is great. It's so good that come on everyone and get down with the sickness. It's so good.
Anyway, what else you got?
And my number one is it's the same as my number one sci-fi movie, which is 1982 Night of the Comet.
I've never even heard of that movie.
I love this movie.
She made me watch
so
it.
much. I probably watch it a couple of times a year.
It's one of those, huh?
From the 80s, and the Halley's Comet comes through and it kills everyone, turns them into, they call them comet zombies.
Huh.
And these two girls are like two of the only survivors in the world, and they just go shopping and they like fight zombies. And then there's these scientists who are working on a cure, but they got like partial exposure, so they're like slowly turning into zombies. So they got to hurry up and find a cure, and they want to just like dissect these two girls that survived in order to create a cure for themselves. It's so good. It's so 80s.
It's not good.
It's not good, but
You
it's good.
shut your whore mouth.
It's okay. I'm gonna have to watch that.
It's so good.
Okay, where can I find it?
It's on Amazon.
Is it Prime?
No, it's not on Prime.
Oh, I gotta rent it.
Yeah.
God damn it!
It's probably $3.
$3. I want my $3.
Damn it. I love you, Alex.
So yeah, I know you do. I got you. Cool. So all zombie movies for you, pretty much.
This is the End is not a zombie movie. It's more of a devil.
It's an apocalypse movie.
Almost like
Heaven and
sounds
Hell.
like a parody.
Heaven and Hell. Yeah, it is. It's kind of.
It's a comedy, but it's a comedy based around the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Kind of like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
I feel like which one's better, Shaun of the Dead or This Is the End?
They're two very different movies.
Very different. Yeah.
Zombieland.
Oh, Zombieland's great.
Zombieland's great. Yeah.
Zombieland, I feel like, is actually probably the most realistic of all the zombie movies. Because if you're talking about these things that are like super kind of like not real smart and kind of slow, you're going to get people like that, like Tennessee and what's his name? Freaking Woody Harrelson's name in that movie? He's
Tennessee.
Is it Tennessee?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. You're going to get guys like that.
Tallahassee.
That's what it is. You're going to get guys like that who are just like, oh, this is my dream. This is going to be great. And
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a little bit of me because I'm going to be like, I'm down. Let's do this.
Is there a celebrity that you would want to be stuck with in the apocalypse?
A celebrity?
Yeah.
Fuck no. Bunch of drama queens. No.
Steven Seagal.
No, definitely not. Maybe The Rock because he's like super duper strong, but
John Cena.
yeah. I feel like if he didn't have the exact diet that he's on right now, he would shrink up real quick.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to be with anyone too big because if they get turned, then they're going to be really difficult to deal with.
is that how that works?
For me, yeah. I'm small.
Mia Khalifa.
Lou Ferrigno?
Good choice.
Khalifa.
Mia Khalifa,
Oh.
former porn star.
There you go. Zombie. Oh, it's gross. Anyway, all right.
What are your picks, Ben?
Kevin Smith would be amazing to hang out with in the apocalypse.
Should we just like bake out?
Yes.
Seth Rogen.
Close
Seth
all the doors.
Rogen. Yeah, Bill, yeah.
Close all the doors and just get high as fuck. Yeah, I'm down. Kevin, go ahead. Kevin Smith sounds like a fun apocalypse partner. What about you? Who would you hang out with?
Pocket partner.
A pocket partner.
Well, can I talk about my movies?
Yes. What's your top post-apocalyptic movies?
So I have a couple. Jude actually touched on two. So This Is the End is probably, I'd have to say, my favorite because that movie is just amazing. And the original Dawn of the Dead, because I saw that way before the remake came out. And that was like the movie, it was George Romero, it was his follow-up to Night of the Living Dead. And that was like the first time where you were like, okay, yeah, like if it were the end of the world and there were like all these zombies, I'd hold up in a mall because like there's just tons of shit there. And it was, kind of like, a very realistic depiction of what people would do in an apocalypse. And so like I really like the original version of it. Probably better than the remake. I'm not even sure Judah's seen the original, so she might have.
The original one, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one where they find the zombie in a barrel in the basement, right? And it's coming up the stairs like brains.
No,
Is that one?
No, that's Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, okay. I'm getting my zombie
something
movies confused.
completely different. Yeah. No, this is the sequel to Night of the Living Dead. It's a George Romero movie. It's basically, it was the movie that the remake that Jude talked about was based on.
Okay.
So it's survivors. They hole up in a mall and they try to survive the zombie apocalypse. And it turns out they should be trying to survive themselves. But my serious pick for apocalypse movies is Children of Men.
Oh, that's a good movie. Clive Owen.
Mm-hmm. And then my guilty pleasure pick is this movie called Doomsday with Roma Mitri. And it's directed by Neil Marshall, who did The Descent and the new Hellboy movie.
I love Descent.
Descent
the new
is
Hellboy movie?
The new Hellboy movie, yes. So like after The Descent came out, like he had like a lot of clout. So they were like, what type of movie do you want to make? And he's like, I want to make the most batshit crazy movie anybody's ever seen. And so he basically remade Escape from New York, but meshed it with Mad Max and like a bunch of other movies that he like grew up with.
Doomsday?
It's called Doomsday. And so the story is there's this virus called the Reaper virus, and it's devastating, and it breaks out in Ireland or Scotland. And so like the British government, in order to contain the virus, they build a wall around Scotland, like a huge wall.
It sounds familiar.
What year did this come out?
This came out, I want to say 2008, 2006, maybe.
This sounds vaguely familiar.
It's the plot for Escape from New York, basically. So they created this wall around the island of Scotland. And because they leave all these people to basically just fend for themselves, the UK is like a pariah amongst the world. So everyone just hates Britain now. But they send in people like a special team led by the female Snake Plissken, starring like who is Roma Mitra. Like she's got like an eye patch and everything, and basically she is Snake Plissken,
right?
Which is, and it makes the movie absolutely hilarious.
They gender swapped her.
But yeah, they basically gender swapped Snake Plissken, but she's not Snake Plissken. She's a different character. Yeah. But she got like an eye patch and all this stuff, and everyone's always like, I thought you were taller. So like they send her and her team into Scotland to try to find a cure for this Reaper virus, because unlike most places where it turns people into zombies, in this movie it's actually just like a really deadly virus. So like it can wipe out an entire population, and people in the UK are starting to come down with it. So they send in this team to find this doctor who was close to a cure, who got quarantined inside Scotland, and once they get in Scotland, it's just devolved into like Mad Max. Like there's cannibals, there's like berserkers, there's like all this crazy stuff, and like the whole movie ends with like this this death race type car race.
What?
Yeah, it's batshit crazy. Like it's the most insane movie you've ever seen, and you can tell like when they were making it that they just didn't give up. They're just like, we're gonna put in every movie that we ever loved, and we're just gonna mash it together and make that. And it's a huge guilty pleasure movie where like it's not a good movie, but it's a fun movie.
Okay, I feel like I may have seen it, because the more you describe it, the more I'm starting to get images in my head of the characters and the situation that they're in.
I have seen it, but it's been a long time ago.
Yeah,
and it's just like he was saying. I remember going, "What am I watching?"
Yeah,
this is super cool. But yeah,